Good afternoon. I pray that your Thursday was filled with spaces and places of joy, of peace, of happiness, that you had an opportunity to smile and just to be able to exhale. Today, I posted something that says, be firm about your choices right now. Don't go backwards to habits and situations that weren't helping you evolve. You will have to keep reminding yourself why you even decided to move forward. Stay positive about what's to come by being consistent with your change now. Let me read it again. Be firm about your choices right now. Don't go backwards to habits and situations that weren't helping you to evolve. You have to keep reminding yourself why you even decided to move forward. Stay positive by being consistent with your change now. And today I want to talk about, this is in response to something someone wrote me. What do you do when someone continues to, and I'm going to say, disrespect your boundaries? They continue to ignore the boundaries that you have set. Boundaries are good because it helps us to establish what we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate, what is acceptable to us and what's not acceptable to us. And if you don't have boundaries, there's a saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so, in order to live a healthy life, we have to determine, okay, what do I need to be healthy? What do I need to be whole? What is acceptable for me and what is unacceptable? Here's an example. For some people, and I listen to a lot of younger people, it's acceptable to them to call each other the B word, to say bitch, bitch this, bitch that. And they'll say it, in all kinds of ways. Well, for me, that's a boundary. My boundary for me is, do not call me outside of my name. And my name is not bitch. My name is Carolyn. Now, you can call me Carolyn, you can call me Carol, you can call me Caroline, you can call me Miss Harris, you can call me Miss Harris-Hutchinson, you can call me Miss Hutchinson, you can call me Mama C, you can call me Miss C, but do not call me outside of my name, particularly using profanity. That is a boundary for me. And what I've illustrated, whereas that is a boundary for me, it may not be a boundary for someone else. And that's what I really want to get to. If you have set a boundary for yourself and someone continues to cross that line, they continue to do the very thing that you stated that you will not tolerate, that is not acceptable for you. The first thing is they may not have the same boundary. It may be okay for them to do, in their mind, to do the very thing that you stated is a boundary for you. But guess what? That's not your problem. Okay? That's not your problem. Your issue is you have, in order for you to be healthy, in order for you to be whole, you have created boundaries. And so what do you do when someone continues to break your boundaries? I'm going to share with you what I did when this happened to me. Many of you have read my book, and if you haven't, it's called First Time, because everything has a beginning. It's on Amazon. It's pinned on the top of my page. But anyway, in my book, I talk about the relationship that for many, many, many years I had with my mother. And it was a relationship that was not nurturing. It was not necessarily very affirming. My mother, had her own situations that she had came through that had shaped her to be the woman who she was. And so for her, her method of communication, at least towards me, a great deal of the time was cursing me out, and just not being very affirming. And so one of the things I realized is, as I got older, I continued to kind of tolerate that type of behavior from her directed to me. Until one day I decided this is no longer acceptable. So the boundary that I set was when I came in my mother's presence, whether it's on phone or whether I'd driven to New York to visit her, If she became rude, if she became disruptive, if she began to speak to me in a manner that I did not feel was affirming, I would end the conversation. And so for about a year, when she would call or when we would talk to each other on the phone, when she would start in her negative way of speaking, I would say to her, I have to go, and I would end the conversation. And there's been times when I've driven all the way to New York, and when I got there, the visit may not be that long because when she began to do what she did so well, I would take my children, turn around, and drive back home. I never once told her that I had set this boundary. I just began to do it. I just began to make sure that the boundary that I set, that line would not, once it was crossed, that I had a response to it. And so finally, about a year later, her, myself, and my aunt, I never forget, we were in New York. We were standing in front of a McDonald's. And my mother said, Carolyn loves me, but she doesn't like me. And I remember looking at her thinking, that's exactly right. I do love her. I've always loved my mother. I just did not like how she was treating me. And because I loved her, because she is my mother, I chose to continue to be in relationship with her, but it had to be not necessarily completely on her terms, because her terms was really affecting my self-esteem, my level of self-worth, and how I felt about myself and how I responded to others. And so what do you do when someone continues to break your boundaries? It's not up to the other person. If they continue to break the boundaries you set, then it's up to you to determine, okay, what do I need to do to change the dynamics in this relationship? If you set a boundary where someone's continuing to call you outside of your name, even though you've stated that that's not what you would like, then you may want to reassess, is this the type of relationship that I'm choosing to be in? And if you are choosing to be in that relationship, you just don't want them to do that particular thing. When they call you outside of your name, you may make the decision to not respond. If your boundary is, please do not touch my whatever, please do not use my whatever, and the person's continue to do that, then you may really want to reassess, how much access do I want this person to have to my things? If this is extremely important to me, is there a place I can put these things where this person no longer is able to access it? And that includes you. If the person is not treating you well, then you may want to change the level of access that person has to you. Now, I hope that this has been helpful for someone because, again, I believe everyone should set boundaries because we all know instinctively what we need. We all know instinctively what our spirit requires for us to feel nourished, for us to feel refreshed, for us to feel loved, for us to feel whole. But unfortunately, some of the people who we interact with, they may not be on the same level. They may not, for them, what they may require for them or what's acceptable for them may not necessarily be what's acceptable for you. And so I really want to empower you to pay attention to preserving your safe place, to preserving your peace of mind, as Malcolm X would say, by any means necessary. If something is not nourishing you, if something is not adding to you, then you may really want to reassess, do I need this person in my life? And if so, to what level? You may need to pull back some. And if you remember my story, it took my mother a year, I believe, to really catch on. And she never once said to me until that about a year that she never once, questioned, but it became clear. And once she made that statement, it wasn't too far after that our relationship began to change for the better. And so I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to set boundaries because it helps you to be whole. It helps you. It helps with your self-esteem. It helps with your level of self-worth. It helps for you to be able to affirm that you are worthy of being treated kindly. You are worthy of being loved. And if someone's not willing to respect your boundaries, then it's time to reassess what position you will allow that person to play in your life. It's really all up to you, my dear. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk with you later. And tomorrow starts my grief group. There still is a little bit of time. We have maybe 1 or 2 spaces left. So if you're interested, you can email me at firsttime.beginnings@gmail.com. And first time is spelled FIRSTIME. There's not 2 T's, there's only 1 T. FIRSTIME.beginnings@gmail.com. Love you. Bye-bye.